When I was 22, my parents took my younger sister Brittany, who was 17 at the time, on a vacation, but left me behind. That trip didn't exactly end well for them, though. Brittany managed to ruin the whole thing and ended up getting arrested. It was only then that my parents finally started to see her for who she really is. Now, to back things up a bit, my relationship with my parents has always been a little strained, mostly because of Brittany. She's always been their favorite. After my mom went through a heartbreaking miscarriage, Brittany came along a few years later and was seen as their miracle baby, the child who helped them heal. From the moment she was born, they doted on her. She became the center of everything in our family. And I'll be honest, when we were kids, I did love her. But over time, I began to notice something. Brittany had this uncanny ability to manipulate people, and somehow no one else seemed to see it. She was great at spinning stories to make herself look like the victim. One year on my birthday, I got this beautiful antique pocket watch from our grandparents. My grandmother told me it was a family heirloom, and I was so proud to have it. But Brittany was clearly jealous. She kept asking if she could borrow it. I told her no, it was a birthday gift after all. She even tried to get our parents involved, but since it came from our grandparents, they stayed out of it. That night, Brittany did something downright cruel. She knew I was terrified of spiders, so she went and put one inside my pillowcase. When I crawled into bed, I felt it crawling across my skin and screamed like crazy. My parents came rushing in, worried sick. Brittany acted all concerned, playing the sweet little sister. But later, when we were alone, she gave me this creepy little grin and straight up told me she put the spider there to teach me a lesson. She didn't even try to hide it. No remorse. Nothing. Then there was the time I finally worked up the nerve to invite my crush, Ethan, over to watch a movie. I was so nervous and excited, I even picked out a dress I thought he'd like. But the moment Ethan showed up, Brittany accidentally spilled a glass of juice all over me and started laughing like it was the funniest thing ever. I was mortified. While I was upstairs changing and trying to keep it together, she stayed with Ethan and started telling him embarrassing stories from when I was a kid. She didn't give us a moment alone. And when he was about to leave, she looked right at him and said he could do way better than me. Ethan left in a hurry, clearly uncomfortable. I was stunned by how heartless and calculated Brittany could be. Over the years, I tried to tell my parents about all the messed up things she did, but they just brushed it off. They always said she was just a kid, or that I was overreacting. I started to feel like they thought I was the problem, so eventually I just gave up talking about it. Brittany stayed their golden child. And me? I was the one who always spoke my mind, and that somehow made me the troublemaker. I focused on my education and got accepted into a good college, which gave me the chance to move out and build a better life. During school breaks, though, going home was always tense. Brittany made it obvious that she hated having me around. She'd ignore me, avoid talking to me, and wouldn't even sit next to me at the dinner table. If I tried to talk, she'd cut me off or say something snide. She'd also mess with my stuff, taking things without asking, then either breaking them or losing them. And my parents never did anything about it. They just told me we should try to get along. Eventually, I stopped going home for breaks. I started staying with friends or finding other ways to keep busy. My parents didn't question it much. They figured I just wanted some space, and maybe that was true. After high school, Brittany didn't get the grades for a university, so she stayed home and enrolled in community college. That meant she never had to move out. Meanwhile, I landed a job at a multinational company in San Francisco, and I really enjoy the work. I keep in touch with my parents once in a while, but I haven't spoken to Brittany in years. Then one day I got a call from my mom. My dad had suffered a near-fatal heart attack. Thankfully, he pulled through and was rushed to the hospital in time. As soon as I heard, I booked a flight and came home. After he was discharged, the doctors gave him a long list of meds and told him he needed to start exercising. My dad, shaken by the whole thing, said he wanted to spend more time with us as a family. He told me how lucky he felt to still be alive. So I stuck around the house for a few days. My job lets me work remotely, so it wasn't a big deal. But Brittany wasn't happy to see me. I could tell right away, she was irritated that I was there. Still, I kept my distance. After everything with my dad, the last thing I wanted was another argument. One morning over breakfast, my dad brought up the idea of a family vacation. He said it had been years since we'd gone anywhere together, and he really wanted to do something special. At first, I wasn't sure about it. But I could see how much it meant to him, so I agreed. Brittany didn't look thrilled, but she didn't really have a choice. My dad booked the flights and arranged everything. I cleared time off from work and made sure my team knew not to reach out during the trip. I was really looking forward to just spending time with my parents. But then we got to the airport. I found out that my ticket had been canceled. I looked over at my dad confused. He swore he booked 4 tickets. When we checked with the airline, we found out that only my ticket had been canceled. As I stood there trying to process what just happened, I glanced at Brittany. And there it was, that smug little grin. The same one she always had when she got away with something. In that moment, I knew she had done it. She must have canceled my ticket using my dad's computer. I lost it. I started yelling, pointing right at her and telling my parents what she had done. Brittany just stood there with that same smile. My mom, of course, jumped in to defend her. Brittany would never do something like that, she said. You're just jealous of your sister. She insisted it must have been some kind of accident. But I knew better. My dad tried to stay calm, saying maybe the airline had just messed up and I shouldn't be so quick to blame Brittany. I was beyond frustrated. It was like my parents couldn't even consider the idea that their so-called miracle child might actually be behind something like this. But at that point, what could I do? My ticket was canceled and there were no other flights that day. Sure, I could have booked one for the next day, but honestly, the thought of heading back home, buying a whole new ticket, and traveling by myself didn't sound appealing at all. I mean, it was supposed to be a family trip. And on top of that, I was dreading the idea of sharing a room with Brittany during the vacation. I had hoped she'd grown up over the years, but if she really did cancel my flight, what else was she planning to ruin the trip for me? My dad hesitated for a bit, even saying maybe they could all just go home and plan another vacation later. But then he started going on about how long it had been since he'd been anywhere. My mom chimed in, saying I travel all the time for work, so missing this one trip wasn't a big deal. That stung more than I expected. It was like they were pushing me to tell them, go ahead without me. So that's exactly what I did. I told them they should go if that's what they wanted. And well, they didn't hesitate. They agreed right away. Even though I didn't want all that money they spent on tickets and hotels to go to waste, it hurt to realize they didn't seem to care whether I was there or not. It was pretty clear they were perfectly fine going on a family vacation without all the family. So there I was, left behind at the airport, watching my parents and sister head off for their big trip. I decided to go back to San Francisco. I couldn't bring myself to spend another day alone in that house. I tried to shake it off and enjoy the time off I'd already taken from work. I reconnected with some old friends, caught up on books I'd been meaning to read, and turned the whole thing into a staycation. While they were away, my parents would sometimes video call me. I'd see them having a blast, laughing and sightseeing. It was like my absence didn't even make a dent in their plans. I wasn't exactly heartbroken about missing the vacation itself, but I couldn't shake that feeling of being left out, again. It was just another reminder of how deep the favoritism ran in our family. Still, I hoped one day they'd finally see Brittany for who she really was. Turns out, that day came sooner than I expected. A few days into their trip, I woke up to several missed calls from my mom. My heart dropped. I immediately thought something had happened to my dad. I called her back in a panic. She answered, but she sounded rattled, like something had seriously gone wrong. She told me something disturbing. They'd noticed that some of my dad's heart medications had started disappearing. He absolutely couldn't miss his pills, not with his health being so fragile, and they were in another country where getting replacements wasn't guaranteed. They searched everywhere in their hotel room and came up empty. At one point, my mom went into Brittany's room next door to borrow some sunscreen while Brittany was out. And that's when she found them, all the missing pills neatly stashed inside Brittany's bedside drawer. She called my dad into the room and showed him what she found. He was stunned. This was the moment the truth hit them. Brittany, their cherished miracle child, had been stealing his medicine. She wasn't just being a brat. She was putting his life at risk. My mom's voice shook as she asked me if they should confront Brittany. I told her to wait until they were back home. They needed time to gather their thoughts and be ready. Otherwise, Brittany would just twist things around like she always did. But apparently, that confrontation couldn't wait. Later that night, I got a call from my dad. His voice was shaking. He told me Brittany had been arrested. I was stunned. He explained that when they confronted her about the missing medication, she exploded, screaming, throwing things, cursing them out. She was furious at my dad, accusing him of trying to include me in their vacation and blaming him for everything. She told them that if they kept having a relationship with me, she'd make sure they regretted it. It spiraled fast. She kept lashing out, and eventually the hotel staff called the police. When the officers showed up, Brittany didn't back down. She insulted them, refused to cooperate, and ended up getting arrested. She was released 20 hours later, but the damage was done. My parents were desperate to come home at that point, but when they went to get their things, they realized their passports and wallets were missing. Turns out Brittany had taken them. No one knows for sure if she threw them away or hid them, but either way, my parents were stranded in a foreign country with no money and no identification. For the first time, they finally saw Brittany for who she really was. My mom, who had defended Brittany for years, who always made excuses for her, was now calling me in tears, begging for help. She was overwhelmed and horrified by what she discovered about her angelic daughter. I told them not to worry. I'd send money through Western Union. But first, they needed to find their passports. I was sure Brittany hadn't destroyed them. She was too calculated for that. My parents were finally beginning to understand. After all the years of brushing me off, they realized I had been telling the truth all along. They were grateful I was helping them now, even though they'd left me behind. They even apologized. Part of me wanted to forgive them. But honestly, it's hard. It's hard to forget how many years I spent feeling second best, unloved, and unheard. And now that they've finally gotten a taste of what I went through, they want me to just forgive and forget? Update 1. Since they got back, my parents have been calling me with updates every day. I'm starting to feel more anxious about the whole situation. After Brittany was released from jail, my parents gave her an ultimatum: return their passports or they'd report her again. With no other option, she finally gave in and told them where she hid them. When they got home, my parents sat Brittany down and told her she needed to pack her things and leave. They had reached their limit. They couldn't ignore it anymore. Brittany had gone too far. They were also afraid she might try something again, like messing with my dad's medication. That led to another shouting match between Brittany and my parents. She screamed, yelled, and started throwing out accusations, blaming them for everything. Brittany told our parents she didn't want to share them with anyone. Not even me. She said she was pushed over the edge when they invited me on that trip. Over and over, she insisted they should cut me out of their lives entirely. According to her, she was more than enough for the both of them. That was probably the moment it really hit my parents, how deep her jealousy ran and just how much she resented me being part of the family at all. They tried to calm her down, but she wouldn't stop. She kept hurling accusations, saying that if they didn't back off, she'd go around telling people they mistreated her when she was a kid. She said she'd accused them of being neglectful parents. Then she took it a step further. She threatened to go to the police and file false reports against them if they kept pushing her to move out. That scared my parents. I mean, they're both respected doctors in our community. Just the thought of their reputations being dragged through the mud by false accusations made them feel cornered and completely helpless. And it didn't stop there. Brittany just kept making their lives harder day by day. When she found out that my parents had been talking to me more often, she flew into a rage. She started breaking dishes around the house. Then she began stealing their car keys and hiding them so they couldn't get to work on time. Just tonight, my mom called me in tears again. Brittany had thrown a huge tantrum at dinner. She demanded my mom cook for her, and when she said no because she was exhausted from work, Brittany went wild. She smashed furniture, stormed off to her room, and cranked up the music so loud they couldn't sleep. Things were spiraling fast. My parents were drained, mentally, emotionally, all of it. And honestly, I started to worry for their safety. I had wanted them to finally see Brittany for who she really was, but now I was scared that she might actually hurt them. I couldn't go back home myself. I knew that would only escalate things. But I did start encouraging them to speak to a lawyer. It felt like the only real option left, to protect themselves and finally bring some peace back into their lives. Update 2. Brittany's been arrested. A lot of people guessed this would happen eventually, and you were right. Things reached a breaking point one night during yet another huge fight, only this time, Brittany grabbed a knife. That was it. My parents had no choice but to call the police. The officers came quickly and arrested her on the spot for assault. With Brittany in custody, my parents finally decided to take legal action. They met with an attorney and started the process to evict her from the house. The lawyer helped them file the necessary papers, and they served her with an official notice. They made sure everything was done by the book, no loopholes, no wiggle room. They weren't pressing further charges, they just wanted her out of the house and out of their lives. After they bailed her out of jail, they handed her the eviction papers. It clearly stated she had to leave and by when. Then they followed up by filing a lawsuit to back it up in court. It wasn't easy, taking your own daughter to court never is. It crushed them, but they knew they didn't have any other choice. Eventually, the court issued an official order saying Brittany had to vacate the property. If she didn't leave on her own, the law would step in to remove her. She's supposed to be out by next week. Now, for the first time in a long time, my parents feel like they can breathe. It's been a hard road, but they're hopeful things will start getting better once Brittany is no longer living under their roof. I've kept in close contact with them throughout everything, and I'm planning to bring them out here to San Francisco for a little while. They need a break. A change of scenery. And honestly, we could all use the time to reconnect. We've all been through a lot. Update 3. I've gotten hundreds of comments and messages since sharing this story. It's taken me a while to get through them all. One of the most common suggestions has been that we should get Brittany evaluated for mental health issues. I completely understand where people are coming from and I don't disagree. But Brittany's an adult now. We can't legally force her to get checked out unless she's willing to go. And with how explosive and unpredictable she's been lately, none of us want to push her and make things even worse. As I mentioned before, my parents are here with me in San Francisco now. They finally got a chance to step away from everything for a bit. Just last night, we were sitting around the dinner table in my apartment, nothing fancy, just a quiet evening together. And they finally started opening up. Their voices were soft and full of regret. That evening around the table, my parents finally said the words I had been waiting years to hear. They admitted they'd been blind to who Brittany really was all this time, and they asked for my forgiveness. My dad looked me in the eye and told me how sorry he was for not listening to me sooner. He said they never imagined Brittany would turn out the way she did, and they just couldn't see past the sweet, polished version of her she always showed the world. My mom echoed his words. Her voice was shaking as she finally said out loud how wrong they'd been to ignore all my concerns over the years. She said it broke her heart to realize how much pain I'd been in while they kept brushing me off in favor of Brittany. I told them I appreciated them owning up to it, it meant a lot. Then I opened up about some of the painful memories I'd kept to myself. I shared how Brittany's actions had hurt me, how I felt isolated in my own home, how lonely and dismissed I'd been. They sat there quietly stunned, listening with tears in their eyes. They finally saw it. The years of favoritism, the emotional distance, the constant excuses they made for Brittany, it all added up. They told me that their judgment had been clouded by how Brittany came into their lives. She was their miracle baby, the child they never thought they'd have after the miscarriage. And because of that, they had placed her on a pedestal. Hearing them say all this out loud was bittersweet. I had always wanted their validation, but I never imagined it would come after so much chaos. Still, it was a turning point. We were finally facing the truth together as a family. I told them it would take time for me to trust them again. They understood. We agreed to take things one step at a time and rebuild our relationship slowly. And for now, I just wanted to enjoy the few days we had together while they were still visiting me in San Francisco. Update 4. Over the next several days, we spent real time together, walking the streets of San Francisco, enjoying long meals, just enjoying each other's company. It felt good. Not perfect, but real. We were reconnecting after years of silence, resentment, and denial. It became clear to me that their decision to come stay with me wasn't just about getting away from Brittany. It was about rebuilding the family they'd almost lost. They needed a fresh start, and in some ways, so did I. We've had a lot of serious conversations, including what to do about Brittany. Right now, she's staying with a friend. We all agreed, no matter how badly she's treated us, we can't just abandon her. She's still their daughter, and they feel a deep responsibility toward her. Even though what she's done is beyond hurtful, they still love her. And the truth is, we've started to wonder if there's something deeper going on with her. Maybe all this isn't just bad behavior. Maybe there's a real mental health issue that needs to be addressed. We've talked about getting her evaluated, but it's tricky. Brittany's an adult, we can't force her to go. Our plan is to approach the subject gently, try to encourage her to get help voluntarily. Once my parents get back home, they're going to try reaching out. I've decided not to talk to Brittany myself. The grudge she holds against me is still fresh, and I don't want to add fuel to the fire. Given how aggressive she's been in the past, I've asked my parents to meet her somewhere public, just in case. A public setting might help keep things calmer. What we all want deep down is for Brittany to understand that we're not her enemies. We just want her to get the help she needs and to know that, despite everything, we still care. This isn't about pointing fingers or laying blame. It's about trying to come together again as a family before it's too late. Thanks for sticking around and listening to my story.